and welcome back to the channel. And as always with one of my builds, it starts with something, and that something is a used, clean and dry soap container. And as you can see, I mark with a Sharpie the bits I'm going to be nip and tucking. As usual, I'm not going for precise lines, but one of these days I'll surprise you all and will. But for now, eyeballing the shape is good enough for me. Now, always remember to put a big manly X on the bits that are destined for the chop. Then, using my manly saw, I cut away the cap before using my hobby knife or X-Acto knife with a fresh blade. Now I'm doing this bit simply because the container is the plastic is soft enough to glide the blade along and also into fingers, so please take extra care when doing this. Now, because at this point the bottle is very squidgy, I'm going to use a bit of the XPS foam just to slide in the middle of it, just to give it some rigidity, and I'm going to use some hot glue just to stick that bad boy into place. Now remember, when using hot glue, if it's at the wrong temperature, it'll burn through that XPS foam like nobody's business. So just get the glue gun so it's just at temperature, and then I'm just going to slide the XPS foam down and then hold the pieces together until it all sticks. And yes, it was hot when I was pressing the plastic to the XPS foam. Cut strips of thin cardboard for the hull and got so excited I forgot I was supposed to start from the bottom up. So this bit that I'm going to stick at the top was just, what shall we say, a test run, but I do the rest of the hull from the bottom and work my way up. Once the cardboard was on, I got the X-Acto knife and scratched random lines into it to make it look like wood. That won't show up in the glamour shots, but I know they're there. Now, I've done this sort of technique before, and I've actually used a wire brush, but I could not for the life of me. Oh, there it is. There's my wire brush. So use a wire brush or an X-Acto knife, or why don't you just go crazy and use both? Use garden wire and beads to make some floaty dangly things to dangle across the hull of the ship, and more cardboard to cover all the wire. And now somehow I lost quite a lot of footage while doing this, so we'll just skip to me putting on the cabin. So my phone decided to delete bits of this build, or maybe it was just me one drunken night. Anyway, so let's pretend you saw me build the cabin out of cardboard and use barbecue sticks and bits of electronic components from an old Xbox to stick onto the back of the boat. The floaty bits on the side of the boat get a bit of dab of colour just so it looks like it's had wear and tear, and it may have been or may not have been painted before it was painted blue. Then dry brush some white to try and bring out the texture, but something in the back of my mind, I just didn't like how the cabin looked. But I just persevered and just kept going with the dry brush. Next, using a homemade wash of watered down brown acrylic with a spoonful of dishwasher cleaner, I apply to the roof to give it a dirty look before dabbing it away with a paper towel. Next, I just add some random wires that don't mean anything at all to this build to the back of the boat before attending to the flower pot at the front of the boat, because hey, the boat needed flowers. For that, I just squidge some super glue into the little flower box, and then throw some different coloured flowers into it, because for some reason I made a box at the front of the cabin and I needed it something to cover it up with. Once everything had dried, I unceremoniously stick it onto a barbecue stick and that onto a base, sit back, and still the cabin is bugging me. it's back to dry dock with this boat. So like I said, the cabin just didn't look right, so I'm just going to use some 0.25mm styrene. It's really thin. I push holes along the edges and stick it right onto the cabin. I'm not looking for anything fancy, just want it to look like it's been patched up more than once. So once I was happy with the cabin, I painted on a light coat of blue before going back over it with a darker blue, just to give it a little faded, sun-weathered look. Now I believe it's ready for its close-ups. I almost forgot. I used a medium red oxide pigments just to tone down the blue and give it that sort of rusty look, and that's how I built my duck boat. I hope you liked the video. If you do, leave a like, subscribe, share, do all the things that you're supposed to do, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you on next week's video. Well, I won't actually see you, but I know you've watched the video, so therefore I'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching.